which is a reminder that within the Torah, we have the responsibility to perceive how we live our lives, bowing before Elohim according to his instruction, or crawling on our belly. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that particular part. Everybody clear on that we have a choice? I mean, we've talked about it about 2.5 million times, but for the scope of this study, it's important that we understand this. It's always been the choice within Torah to obey or not. So, anyway, where were we? There we go. This choice has come and gone. It's come to an end. At this point, a decision has to be made by humankind. At this point, when this banner is coming, this perception is there, this is the time that humankind has to make its decision. This redemption, deliverance, and restoration can only come from the realm of Yahweh Elohim, which is Bashamayah, meaning heaven. The Hebrew of this word is Shamayim, but both of these words for heaven hold the same root, which is Shama, that means to perceive, discern, understand, and obey. So this is it, the absolute last opportunity for humankind to make teshuvah as the messengers of Yahweh Elohim pour out the destruction on the earth. But we find in the next phrase that all the generations of the earth can do is wail. They refuse to find their redemption, deliverance, and restoration. Okay? We have clear signs that we're going to be able to see and understand, because Mashiach surrounds us and the Ruach communicates to us and tells us this is the time. Now is the time. We have to be perceptive, but the only way that we can be in this state of mind is if we worship in spirit and in truth. We seek the truth of Elohim. We seek to live according to his instruction in our life without wavering. We all waver. Okay? It's like Jacob said. When I say Jacob, I mean James. It's actually Jacob. When King Jimmy wrote or authorized the King James Version, he said, take the name of Jacob out and put my name in, because I want my name to be in the Bible. Jacob says, don't be double-minded. We have to be focused. So consider what happens to those who refuse to submit to the instruction of Yahweh Elohim, but would rather continue in their false worship and lifestyle that's contrary to the Word. And we find this in Shemot 20. It's in the second commandment. It says, you shall not make unto yourself any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down yourself to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahweh your Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquities of the father upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. 3, the third generation. 3, the Gimel, the proud who believe in their own wealth and stability. 4th generation, Dalet, those who are in a state of spiritual poverty. Either I'm depending on myself, or I'm depending on a type of worship that, as we're going to see, has no power, that it has no link to Elohim, that it's a false worship from Babylon the Great. Because Babylon the Great starts to take a lot of importance as we go into Revelation to understand what's going on. How does Yahshua view them? So we consider Revelation 22. And what he's saying is, without what we read in verse 21, and he's talking about those who are within the city partaking of the city of life, or partaking of the tree of life. Okay, these people that have been tucked away, this is after the tribulation takes place, but you still have people without. Because he said, depart from me, you workers of iniquity, I don't know you. They have to go somewhere. They're not going into Eden. But he's talking about these people. For without, outside the gates, are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters, and so whosoever loves and makes a lie. Okay? These people are still existing, even though the chosen, after the tribulation, have been tucked away in, we'll talk about it more next week, or Friday in our study of Thessalonians. But Paul gives Timothy some advice concerning these types of people as well. 2 Timothy 3. He says, know this, that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, not set apart, specifically not set apart to Elohim, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good. Okay? It says scorpions that ridicule the good. Traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of Yahweh, having a form of reverence, a form of righteousness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. Okay? For of this sort are they which creep into the houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away by diverse lusts. What happened in Bereshit 3, 1 through 6? The serpent had a conversation with Isha. He didn't have a conversation with Eve. She hadn't been given the name Eve. That doesn't happen until later on. She was Isha. And Ish was there with her when they both ate together. Okay? It's a spirit of deception that will deceive the spirit. Okay? Then we go, ever learning and never able to come to knowledge of the truth. Those fornicating with the harlot of Babylon will learn her ways, but will never seek to learn or keep the Torah of Yahweh Elohim. We have more people, Christianity, Judaism, but we have more people in Christianity that stick to the ideology that Constantine developed than they do to the truths in Torah. In fact, it was during this time that they said that the Torah was to be banned, all the Jewish stuff was to be banned, no more feasts and festivals, no more writing Hebrew. We are going to translate it in Latin or Greek, no more Aramaic. Okay? Babylon the Great. Now, go on. Now, as Jannes and Jambres withstood Moses, so do these also resist the truth. Men of corrupt minds reprobate concerning the faith. According to the book of Yashar, these men, this is Jannes and Jambres, they were the magicians of Pharaoh. They were the sons of Balaam, who was the false prophet for hire. And we read about Balaam in Numbers. Okay? So what happens to those who make teshuvah and seek Yahweh Elohim to live and that worship in spirit and in truth? What happens to those who are seeking Elohim to live and are seeking to worship the right way and are seeking the truth of Elohim? When we go back to Shemot 20 verse 6, it says, and showing mercy unto the thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Note, Yahweh says thousands, not millions, not billions, but thousands. Narrow is the door, and few are those that find it. Yahshua is very clear as to what the Father is looking for. And if we consider John 4:23-24, he says, but the hour comes, and now is, when true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeks such to worship him. Elohim is spirit, and they that worship must worship him in spirit and in truth. Why was Isha deceived? because she wasn't clear on the truth. If we don't have Ish, we don't have Isha, we don't have study and prayer and praise, then our spirit is easily deceived. We have to have truth for our spirit to be strong enough. And at this point, it can be in the presence of our Father. Everybody with me? So let's go back to our study verse. The next phrase is simply this: and they shall see the Son of Man coming upon the clouds of heaven. This verse tells us that the wicked generation that we've just read about will be familiar with the truth of Torah, but that, as we have read in Paul's advice to Timothy, they will be too arrogant to change, and they will be given over to a reprobate mind. So, this may offend some people, but this is the condition of both Judaism and Christianity today. Judaism relies strongly on the Talmuds, halakha, rabbinical decrees. Christianity is stuck in the 4th century with Constantine. They want to point the fingers at the Catholic Church, but again, like we've said, a great percentage of the Catholic Catechism is still held on to by the Christian denominations that want to down the Catholic Church. So they have a form of reverence, say it can translate into righteousness, but they deny the power, with great power and glory, of the scriptures of Yahweh Elohim. They deny the power of the scriptures of Yahweh Elohim. They're too stuck in their own takanot, they're too stuck in their own doctrine to understand the Torah and the power within the Torah. Okay? People will perceive the truth and even understand it, but they will not yield to it. We find in this verse that the helix is beginning to wind its way to its last threads. In its simplest form, this verse is not giving us a physical manifestation, but it's rather telling us this: we must pay close attention. We must perceive, discern, understand, and obey the word of Yahweh Elohim that from creation has provided a means of 1, redemption, 2, deliverance, and 3, restoration. We must perceive that the armies of Yahweh Elohim are on the move, and that we must be prepared to receive the mark of Elohim in order to escape the destruction to be poured out by the wrath of Yahweh on the earth and upon a disobedient humankind. Okay? We receive the Tav. It's the same thing. We receive the Tav. We receive the redemption that has come through Yahshua. But we can only receive the redemption that has come through Yahshua. There is only one name under heaven by which men must be saved. That name is Yahweh. Within that name of Yahshua, we have the name of Yahweh. Joel tells us, and Peter tells us in the same speech that is given to these people. He's quoting the book of Joel. He's saying, and those who call on the name of Yahweh will be redeemed, delivered, restored. Use the word saved. Say there's not really a word for saved in Aramaic or Hebrew. It's always going to be about redemption, deliverance, and then restoration. Okay? You pull the old chair out of the garbage can, you redeem it, you bring it to the garage, and you clean it up, you deliver it, and then you repaint it, you've restored it to a brand new chair. And that's basically what we are. So this is a spiritual perception that's taking place. We're not going to actually see anything, but we have to be able to perceive. And it's only if we are worshiping in spirit and in truth that we can hear the voice of the Father through the Ruach that's telling us now is the time. Get ready, be prepared, gather together. Okay? We'll talk about that in a minute. As soon as the 144,000 are sealed with the mark, the banner will signal the pouring out of wrath to begin. So let me reinforce this, that the 144,000 are not raptured. They are to remain during this time of tribulation, and that although they are protected from the wrath of Elohim, they are not protected from the cruelty of humankind. Our next verse tells us about the giving and receiving of this mark, but it also begins to tell us about a hedge of protection that will protect his chosen ones to a certain degree from the destruction to come. So again, we'll start by looking at the Aramaic words and their Hebrew roots to kind of bring us clarity. Is everybody okay? All right. Anybody need a break or a water break or a food refresher? Okay. I know this is long and I apologize, but I couldn't break it in half because there's no stopping point until we get to Thessalonians. So Matthew 24:31 reads, "And he shall send his messengers with the great trumpet, and they shall gather the chosen, who are his, from the four winds and from the ends of heaven." Now, verse begins with, "And he shall send." The Aramaic word used here is one nashadar, which means to send, but it also means to summon. The Hebrew word for send is shalach, which also means, among other things, to reach forth. So keeping this in mind, let's now consider the word for messenger, which is malakawi. Okay, in Hebrew it's malakim, malakawi in Aramaic, which refers to a messenger from the realm of Elohim. If we consider all these words together thus far, we can consider that this is a summons, a calling forth from the realm of Yahweh Elohim, and that as we have read in the verse, it is a summon reaching forth to the chosen of Yahweh Elohim. This message is sounded with the great trumpet from the word shifura rabbah, that literally means the great shofar. The first time shofar is mentioned in Torah is at Shemot 19:16, when Yahweh called the people to the mount to hear the Torah given. This is when the shofar blew and there was thundering and there was lightning. The people came and didn't come too close, and they kind of backed off a little bit, and the 10 Commandments were given. Okay? This was and is Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets. The shofar was also to be blown on the Day of Atonement, the day when they kind of sort of almost made teshuvah over the whole golden calf thing. And it was also blown on the last day of Sukkot, known as Hoshana Rabbah, which means the Great Redemption. Now, Torah tells us about several other times that the shofar was blown as well, but these three particular times are very important and very major events that tell us a whole lot about ourselves. So what do these particular times of the shofar tell us concerning the helical time in Torah and the verse that we're considering? What we see here is compassion on the part of Yahweh Elohim. Undeserved favor is still being shown as these three festivals are types for the coming of Mashiach ben David. Okay? These three festivals are types for the coming of Mashiach ben David. Everybody got that? Now, we have a word in this verse that doesn't translate over to English, and it's a curious thing.